So as I sit here in a hotel room in Atlanta, Georgia at 3:40 in the morning, it's now time for me to give you my twice annual speech. Yes, I give you the speech right around the Super Bowl and again right before the championship game in the tournament, and it goes like this. It's the biggest game of the season tonight, and it's a game that I can't wait to watch from a gambling perspective, a handicapping perspective, and just as a college basketball fan. I mean, you've got the two hottest teams in the country going. It's the way it should be. It's a big, big game, but it doesn't necessarily have to be your biggest play of the season. This is just another game. This is no different than a January matchup in the Mid-American Conference between Northern Illinois and Ohio. Yes, it's just another game. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. It's a 50-50, dead on, right down the middle split when it comes to who's going to cover and who won't. Again, it doesn't have to be the biggest game of the season just because it's the biggest game of the year in college basketball. Just like the Super Bowl doesn't have to be your biggest play of the season. And I always like to remind you because I know what it's like after 20 years in this business. I know how many guys come out of the woodwork. They haven't bet college basketball all season. They haven't bet it since November or December. They haven't made a bet since the Super Bowl, but it's a big game. They got to have money on it. Listen, we're all action junkies. I know the deal. You're not telling me anything I don't know. So the word of warning is that it's just another game. Listen, for me, yeah, I have a play on the game. I like the game, but I like a baseball game twice as much today, and that's my best bet today. Oh, you're going to get both plays from me, but that's just the way I look at it. Listen, I told you on Saturday when I cashed in with North Carolina, I like the Tar Heels, but it was just a middle-of-the-road play for me. The fact that I won, great, but I only play the games the way I feel they should be played, and that's the advice that I think that you should follow as well. So let's get going here. You can check out all the promos, all the discounts, etc. They're going to be over on the homepage. A lot of guys with a lot of big plays on this game here tonight. But let's talk about the free picks and, of course, some statistical analysis from an ATS perspective. So we had both favorites win by double-digit margins on Saturday. And the favorites are now 37, 27, and 2 against the spread in the tournaments. Of those 27 puppies, 15 of them have won outright. But the favorites, going back to the round of 16, have certainly been on a roll. 2-0 on Saturday. Yes, they went 1-3 in the round of 8. But remember, in the round of 16, they went 7-1 against the spread, and 6 of those 7 wins were by double-digit variety. So favorites overall have covered 10 of the last 14 games. You've got the number 1 seed in North Carolina, and how have number 1 chalks done? Well, how about 14-4 straight up? Yeah, 11-7 in those 18 games against the spread. But when you're looking at a 2.5 point line, it doesn't matter. The number you have to focus on in this case with this number is the fact that those number 1 seeds have gone 14-4 straight up. Now, favorites, 5 or less, are on a 12-3 straight up an ATS run in the championship game. A little bit of advice here for you. If you love Villanova tonight, why not consider making it a money line play? Do you really think it's going to be a 2 to 3 point game? Do you think Villanova's going to win the game? Why not play them on the money line? You see what the takeback is? It's like $1.35 to $1.40 depending on where you play. So, something to consider. Maybe you make your best bet Villanova and a smaller play on Villanova on the money line. Depending on where you're playing is so critical here tonight. I've often told you, you've got to have 2 sources. I don't care if you're on the Strip and you're playing at the Wynn, and you should consider Stations or the South Point because the lines are going to be so different. I don't care if you're playing offshore, where there's a couple of big offshore sports books where you always pay more for favorites, but in an underdog situation, you may be getting a half point that you won't find anywhere else. So where you play, when you play, certainly applies here as well. I say when you play because public perception is going to drive this number, maybe only by a half point, but it could be an influential half point. If you're on the favorite, North Carolina, I just don't see that line going up to 3. I think 2.5 is where it's going to go, possibly pushed down to 2, as the public money who, let's face it, the public, they're the ones that haven't been gambling every single day. They're the infrequent bettors that are coming in. They're going to be the ones that go, oh my God, Villanova put 95 points on the board. They could have scored 195 against Oklahoma. Did you watch that game? They're going to go, Villanova's the team of destiny. And that could drop that price down, which, if you're on the Tar Heels, would make them more attractive. So just a couple of scenarios for you to consider looking in this game. In terms of the total, you're looking at a number that's right around 149.5 points. It opened at 151, dropped down to 150, now down to 149.5. How can you not go with the over in this contest? Listen, you look at Villanova, and you've got a four-guard lineup. You've got a team that lives and dies shooting three-pointers. This is a team that has just been deadly during the dance in terms of its shooting percentages. It's not just in the Oklahoma game. Look at how Villanova did through all 5 of its games so far here in the postseason. This is a team that's hitting 49% of its three-pointers so far in the tournament. They're not going to stop shooting three-pointers here tonight. In fact, over 42% of their shots during the regular season and the postseason have been from beyond the three-point arc. So they're going to continue to launch no matter what. Hey, listen, this is a team that against Oklahoma couldn't miss. First time they met Oklahoma in the Pearl Harbor Classic. Excuse me, guys. I'm not going to start this video report today after having a tickle in my throat. They were 4 for 32 from three-point land. Again, when you have a committed bunch of shooters, you have absolutely no fear in putting up those balls from beyond the arc, even if you happen to have a bad game. But the fact is, they haven't had a bad game. And they're hitting 49% of their threes during the tournament. They are the second best team in all of college basketball with their two-point shots as well, hitting close to 64% on the year. On the other hand, you have a North Carolina team that loves to play up-tempo. Remember, Villanova is going to want to accelerate the tempo of this game. That plays right into North Carolina's hands. North Carolina does not want to play a slow-down game like Syracuse tried to impose upon it with its zone. Think about the game with Syracuse on Saturday. Now, I had North Carolina in that game. When North Carolina came out and they kept missing one three-pointer after another, one three-pointer after another, you had to be somewhat concerned. And yet they pretty much had that double-digit lead throughout the game. And then you look at North Carolina and you go, well, look at the number of points they put on the board. Just about matching their season average. So when I look at 149.5 points, I just think that this game has 155 to 158 written all over it. So your first complimentary play is going to be to take the over on the contest. Now, let's talk baseball. I've told you that the key to betting baseball successfully nowadays is that you have to look at run line options. And I've got one for you tonight, and that is going to be Arizona. That guy, Zach Greinke, who they signed to the $1 zillion contract. I read an article that this year it's estimated that every pitch will earn him a $10,000 paycheck. Oh, my gosh. Arizona is minus 105 on the run line tonight against Colorado in its home opener. Colorado going with George De La Rosa. Last 3 spring starts for De La Rosa, 14 innings worked. 12 runs allowed, 7 walks. Not exactly the type of numbers you want for your guy when you're on the road to make his season debut. Zach Greinke, on the other hand, 4 spring outings, had a 1.88 earned run average, gave up just 1 hit. 12 hits and 1 run in 14 innings of work. And also, this is a guy who, when you look at what he did at Dodger Stadium last year, yes, he had a phenomenal year for Los Angeles last season. 19-3 overall, 1.66 earned run average. But he's not pitching for the Dodgers, okay? So look at the numbers that he compiled outside of L.A. last season. Road starts last season. Again, you have to excuse me, guys. I have a tickle in my throat here. Last year on the road, he went 9-2 in 15 starts. 1.88 earned run average, 46 road starts the past 3 years, 23-10 record with a 2.61 earned run average. And I bring these numbers out because, again, these weren't just LA-based numbers. This is what he did outside of Dodger land. Now he makes his debut in Arizona tonight, so it's the one time that you can certainly bring that number into account, and I think it definitely pays dividends. This is also a guy that's come out of the chute so quickly, 4-0 with a 1.93 earned run average in 5 April starts a year ago, 5-0 with a 2.04 earned run average in 6 April starts 2 years ago. So if you look at his last 3 April performances, Greinke has gone 10-0 in 13 starts with a 1.93 earned run average, and he's only given up 61 hits and 79 in the third innings in those 13 starts total. I can't give you any better numbers than that. And that's why I think Arizona, in his debut, you lay the 1.5 runs, you take him with pretty much even money, and you go with Arizona on the run line. So that'll do it, along with the game to go over between Villanova and Carolina. If I had to choose between the two free plays, I think Arizona on the run line, to be honest with you, is the better of the two free selections. That'll do it. I wish you well, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Remember, NBA playoffs right around the corner, and just the start of a hell of a lot of baseball over the next 5 months. Good luck, everybody, and I'll talk to you again on Tuesday.